Hey everybody, Ace here. Starting a business can seem really intimidating or almost impossible. But if you would have asked me 2 years ago what I thought about starting a small business, I would have told you that it's not possible to do, or at least not for me. You have to think of the idea, how you're gonna sell the product, how you're gonna market it, what you're gonna do, the whole 9 yards. But now after running my own small business with my wife for well over a month, I can confidently tell you that starting a small business isn't as difficult as it may seem, and it is 100% worth it. I'm gonna go over all the steps that my wife and I had to take to start our small business, which is selling nitrogen-infused cold pressed juices and coffee. And then at the end, I'm gonna go over a list of things that you might need to think about when starting your own small business. So let's get into it. First, probably the most difficult thing of any business, especially starting a small business, is coming up with the idea of what do you want to sell? What do you want your small business to be? Coming up with the idea can be one of the most difficult and challenging things. But luckily for my wife and I, we didn't have to come up with the idea, we stumbled across it. We were on a mini vacation down in Dallas, Texas. And one day we were at the Dallas Farmers Market and we walked across this guy who had a bicycle who was selling nitrogen infused cold pressed juices. We tried the juice and we thought this was amazing and the bike setup was so cool. We wondered if he was selling this kind of product anywhere throughout the United States. And after talking to him for a good amount of time, we decided that, you know what, this is something that we'd be able to partner with him on and bring up to the area we live in. But before we could just buy the bicycle, buy the product, and infuse the juices with nitrogen ourselves and sell them up in our area, which is Madison, Wisconsin, we had to do a little bit of research to figure out what health department regulations did we have to follow. Where were we legally allowed to put or post up the bike and sell the product? How do we have to pay taxes? We have to establish our business. So there was a lot of thought and effort that had to go in behind this before we could even launch our bike and the product. So my first step was I reached out to the city of Madison to figure out what all we had to accomplish or do so we could post up the bike around the square and sell at one of the largest farmers markets across the United States, which is the Dane County's farmers market. After exchanging a couple emails back and forth with one of the representatives for the city of Madison, I was able to schedule a phone call with them and ended up figuring out that what we wanted to do necessarily wasn't gonna work in the way that we had hoped it was gonna work. We weren't gonna be able to just post up the bike off the square and sell our juices on one of the large farmers markets, because there was a long wait list to be able to get a spot around, as well as there's a lot of different hoops that we had to jump through to even apply to try to be a vendor off the square. So after that conversation, that started the long 4-month uphill battle to get our business launched and started. And instead of going over all the nitty-gritty details of everything we had to do, I'm just gonna highlight real quick what we had to do. So the very first thing we had to do was to establish our LLC and get our EIN number from the federal government. Luckily, my wife took care of all of this. She filled out the necessary paperwork with the state of Wisconsin to get our LLC established, and then emailed back and forth with the IRS to try to get our EIN number, which is our employer identification number. A lot of it ties back to getting that LLC established and getting that EIN number created, because we needed that to apply for certain markets. We needed that EIN number to apply for our health department certifications, and really just to help launch our business off the ground. Because once we got that EIN number, the next thing we had to do was establish a business bank account. And we weren't allowed to open a business bank account without that EIN number. So once we got that EIN number, the next thing we did was open our business bank account through our local credit union. And then once that was complete, we had to apply for a seller's permit through the state of Wisconsin. That would allow us to sell product in the state of Wisconsin and charge sales tax and pay sales tax if necessary. And the awesome thing we figured out just recently is the product that we actually sell is tax exempt because it's 100% organic juice and coffee. Since there's no added sugars, preservatives, or anything else, we actually are tax exempt with that product, which makes for a lot less headaches when we're selling that product. After we got our seller's permit from the state of Wisconsin, then we had to apply for our specific food and health licenses throughout the state of Wisconsin, and more tailored towards the county that we were gonna be in. This was a long, lengthy process, and it took a handful of weeks and over 5 different meetings with different health department officials to explain to them what our system was and the products that we were selling. Since it's never really been seen or done before, in this current setup. This was the absolute longest process in the entire thing, and it caused us the most headaches. But a long story short, we ended up getting the proper health licenses that we needed and food handling licenses so we could continue starting our business. And the licenses that really boiled down to was a food handler's license, a temporary food cart license, and then just overall approval of our system through the health department. Another part of our health department license was that any and all mobile establishments must have a base kitchen. This is a approved, certified commercial kitchen from the health department where we would have to do all of our operations out of. Therefore, we need to store our product in that area, and if we were to create any juices or cook any food, would have to be out of this base kitchen. So we had to apply for a couple base kitchens around the area, pay a small fee for those applications, and then hope to get approved by one of those kitchens that we could do our business out of. And I'm gonna say one thing, the regulations around food handling and food prep in Wisconsin are really strict, but it's really reassuring to know that there are such strict regulations. Therefore, when I go out to eat, or if I go to a food cart, I know that most likely that food isn't gonna get me sick. So once we got the health department license all figured out, the seller's permit figured out, and our base kitchen established, the next thing we had to do was apply for a selling permit with each different municipality we wanted to sell our product in. Luckily, there were only 2 different cities we really wanted to sell our product in, so applying for those wasn't as tedious as it could have been. And to let you know, each license that we had to apply for, whether that be the health department license or an application to sell within a certain municipality, cost us anywhere between $150 and $500. So if you could think about all the variety of different steps we had to do, this really started racking up all of our costs. After all of that yellow tape had been vetted through, and that took roughly 3 to 4 months of different meetings, phone calls, applications, research, and this was after our full-time jobs, coming home, working between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. on different things, trying to figure out what all we had to do. Once all of that was completed and we got all the necessary paperwork and applications done, then we had to start applying for different farmers markets that we wanted to hopefully get accepted into so we could sell our product there. There are a lot of farmers markets throughout the state of Wisconsin, and each farmers market is a little bit different, but the majority of them require the product to be made locally in the state of Wisconsin. And luckily enough, we are able to prove to them that we make our product 100% organic and we nitrogen infuse it in the bicycle, which makes it locally made. Therefore, that helped us get into 2 different farmers markets so we could actually launch our business and sell our product in the state. On top of all the different applications and research that we had to do on how to sell our product legally in the state of Wisconsin, we also had to apply for a small business loan to be able to afford the bicycle, the product, a trailer to tow it around in, a tent to put up during farmers markets, all of the different components that went into selling at these markets. So we had to create a small business plan, a marketing plan to go with it, different projections, our personal advantage in the market, what's our marketing strategy, the whole gamut. And we had to create this document and present it to the bank to hopefully get accepted for a small business loan. Then once we were approved with the loan, we could finally move forward with purchasing all of the necessary materials to actually launch our small business, which is Bevy Bike LLC, doing business as Luca and Livy Premium Beverages. We launched at the Madison Night Market downtown and have had great success since that initial day. It's been extremely busy ever since we decided to launch this small business, and it's been go, go, go ever since. Constantly busy on Saturdays and Sundays and throughout the week, trying to find different partnerships or pop-up events that we can do to really help grow this business. So that's just a really quick rundown of everything we had to do to launch our small business. It was a lot of work, meetings, research, just to figure out how we could launch it, but it's been absolutely worth it ever since. So now that you know that, let me just give you a few things you need to think about when starting your own small business. The first thing is the most difficult, and it's, what are you gonna sell? Are you gonna sell a product? Are you gonna sell a service? Are you gonna sell online, farmers markets, in store? What are you gonna do? Another thing to think about is, do you need an LLC? An LLC is gonna protect your personal assets from a lawsuit. Therefore, someone can't come after you and try to claim all of your personal assets. LLC stands for Limited Liability Corporation. Therefore, if you get sued, you won't lose everything. And an LLC costs anywhere between $100 and $300 depending on how you file it or where you have to file it. Do you require or need a lot of startup capital? Or could you start this business with whatever money you already have in your bank? We had to go through a small business loan application, and our small business loan was for around $20,000 at a 5.5% interest rate. Is that something you want to do or not? Our monthly payments are about $380, so I figure as long as we can make $500 a month, we can easily pay off our business loan every single month. So that's something else to consider. Another thing is, how are you gonna market your business? What social media platforms are you gonna use or be most successful for you? We currently use Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok as they're 3 of the most popular social media platforms. But are there any other ways that you could market your business and really get your idea or your product out there? Another big one is, are there any certain permits or licenses that you're gonna need to be able to have your small business? These are just a couple small, easy questions for you to think about when starting a small business. It's not easy. There's going to be a lot of roadblocks and bumps along the road, but when you finally do launch it and you get that first sale, it feels amazing, absolutely fantastic. And that's all I have for you today. If you liked this video or learned anything, please just tap that thumbs up button for me. Leave me a comment down below if you want me to create a video on how my business is doing from a profitability standpoint, kind of what our expenses and our income is. I would love to do that for you if you want to see it. And until then, I hope to see you in the next video when I get around to it. Have a good one.